Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hyde-Smith. Senator Boozman.
Thank you, Senator Schatz and Senator Hyde-Smith, for having this hearing. This is so important. You know, we can argue about climate change and this and that, but certainly the torrential rains that we're having, the drought, the dryness that results of that, the fires. So I think you made a great point, Ms. Thompson. You know, we're not talking, in some cases we're talking about spending more money, but so much of this is just being more efficient and making the process work. I'm the ranking member on agriculture, and we see this with the relief programs there. You know, it's difficult to go through the process, and then you wait 2 years, you know, before you actually get any relief. By that time, it's more than difficult. So, Mr. Reinhardt, Arkansas has had a series of tornadoes in the last several years that have caused significant damage. We're seeing this in Tennessee, you know, just in the last day or so. One of the main frustrations I've heard from state and community leaders is how long the process, as we've talked about, all of you all have talked about, see the appropriated federal funding on the ground. A few months ago, I introduced myself and Senator Padilla a bill that would help streamline the process of economic development administration by creating an Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience that assists EDA in being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to these disasters. Can you discuss how organizing our current federal disaster assistance programs, like setting up an Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience at EDA, can help communities in need?
Thank you, Senator. It's one-stop shopping. If you can go to, if a citizen has to go to one place, whether it's FEMA, it's HUD, or one federal agency, it would really be nice to go to one place and be able to meet all your needs to solve, you know, work all the programs. Otherwise, you know, when a disaster occurs, you have multiple agencies pouring onto the site, all with the best of intent, but it quickly overwhelms, especially low to moderate income citizens. Most of the South Carolina clients for our disaster recovery program are over 65 years old. And they struggle sometimes to have the paperwork necessary, and all these agencies are calling them. And if you had one that would take care of it all, that would be very simplistic and would actually not only streamline the process, because then that data could be shared across other agencies to bring other programs to it, but would also just make it easier on the citizen. A lot of times the citizens get confused, they get frustrated, they get tired, and they then don't participate in the disaster recovery program. So absolutely, Senator, if you could put one-stop shopping, make it one center point, the people that show up after the disaster could be that people. Now, which agency that is, that's not for me to decide. There are some great options, because there are some great people both in FEMA, HUD, SBA, EDA, all those agencies. But if you can make it more simplistic, that would really help this average citizen to participate in the recovery program.
Anybody else?
I completely concur. And I think that even if it's not through an agency, and I'm going to push here for tech, we know how to do this. TurboTax has been doing this for years. It's an if-then scenario. And I don't do individual assistance. I mostly work with leaders or people who are serving families. And so, and they're always that shock of how the system works. Most of them have low civic education. They don't know the EDA exists. And so asking for technical assistance, they don't know that they can send an email to FEMA and say, we have, you know, low capacity, can you just provide us, this is what we need. That is one of the possibilities. But if you don't even know, they don't even know what the Federal Registry is. They don't know. And then this disaster comes, and like I think about Supervisor Kevin Goss out of Plumas County. He was the board chair. Then he lost his pharmacy in the fire. Then he had 100 days of fire coming 4 times at his home in Taylorsville. Then he had to be the interim CAO of Plumas County and the auditor, all of 4 of those things at once while navigating this unprecedented disaster and the loss of Greenville. So him even figuring out what the EDA is, like this is like an if-then scenario, even if it's not centralized in one agency, but just that it feeds you also the language so that you're not getting clawbacks, because otherwise it's nearly impossible for an under-resourced community to navigate it and get what's allocated is one thing, what's accessed is another. Where I live in Sonoma County, we got everything that we were entitled to, and we have the first brick grant for wildfire. Very different scenario. $2 billion a year budget. So the inequity there is so painful every time I walk into a community.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I want to compliment you all. We hear so much about all the rancor that's going on up here. This is not a Democrat or Republican thing. This is just trying to figure out how to help people. And you two and your staffs do a good job of that. So give yourselves a pat.
Thank you very much, Senator Boozman. And we look forward to working with all members of this